Hey everybody, it's Merkel, and I wasn't initially going to make a video over all this, but people have been asking me a whole bunch, so I will go over the details that I think are kind of important and cool. Now, they did a profession Twitch stream about a week ago, and they went over all the changes to professions in Legion and things like that, and I decided, I will make the video because people keep asking. So, one of the things that they went over that was definitely one of the best things I possibly could say for those of you that have double crafting professions. I know many people keep asking me, is double crafting viable? And at first, it wasn't. Like, that was impossible. You couldn't pick double crafting and be viable at all. But they're making plenty of mechanics that make it possible to have two double crafting professions. Initially, for the first several months, no, it was not possible at all. There was no way you were going to really be able to do anything with double crafting. But now, they've made it so it's very, very viable. You get bloods from doing many different things, like doing heroics. The world quests appear a lot more frequently if you have double crafting, I believe. Um, there's also the shoulder enchantment that they made it much more easy to get the shoulder enchantment. And there's just plenty of mechanics in the game now that double crafting is very, very viable. So you don't have to drop your crafting profession. Now, one of the things they did that I do enjoy, and some people might not like this, but I think it's a cool way to make it just so you can't pretty much buy your way to the top. Okay, Obliterum initially didn't have any needs. You could just equip it immediately and it was fine. But they made it so Obliterum binds the item to you. So when you bind it, it'll give you the 5 item levels, but the item becomes soulbound. And it also costs 2 Blood of Sargeras to upgrade. So for every single item you want to upgrade all the way to max, you need 14 Blood of Sargeras. And if you're talking about every single slot, like neck, head, shoulders, shirt, I mean, that's a lot of Blood Sargeras you're going to be eating up. So I'm just saying, it's cool that they did that, because that means you can't just immediately be overpowered as soon as you hit level 100 just because you got a lot of gold. Or 110, excuse me. Just because you have a lot of gold, which is kind of nice. And they're doing all kinds of things. They even said that a vendor that allows you to spend extra Blood of Sargeras is a possibility. Other ideas are being tossed around as well, which is cool because, in my opinion, that's really nice. That's kind of probably like the Golden Lotus vendor, if any of you remember the Golden Lotus vendor. So you could buy, Spears of Harmony, herbs, anything from the Golden Lotus vendor. It was really nice. And if they do that with Blood of Sargeras, that's a great way to pretty much sell your Blood of Sargeras. Um, and they were talking about how they added flavor and fantasy. Now, I do agree. I like the way they set up professions in Legion. You have to do quests to unlock them. You earn your ranks through quests, and you do all kinds of stuff. And I do agree that it's a little more fun than just you hit 5 more levels and then you go learn a new pattern at the vendor. It is a lot more entertaining by having to do a quest to learn your stuff. Now, some of the quests are very complicated. Like I found alchemy. Which is the one I just did recently. Alchemy had more quests than any other profession I have done thus far. And every single quest required you to be in a dungeon. So it's not like the other professions where you may go out and do a quest in the open world. I mean, every single quest required you to go do like a heroic dungeon, a normal dungeon, some kind of dungeon, and even the end quest required like raids. So I mean, it's by far the most demanding I've had so far in terms of quests. So I feel it's kind of unbalanced. Some professions barely have any quests and you unlock so much. But then things like alchemy, you have a ton of quests and they're all very, very, very. You won't even be able to do them until you're 110, some of them. So again, very unbalanced in a way. But I do like that because it means alchemy's items may be higher cost early in the beginning, simply because not many people will be able to go out and do those things. So I guess it's kind of cool and kind of uncool. I don't know how to put it. Engineering, they were just going over the fact that they can create many different items, and we'll go over that when I do my engineering guide. It's just talking about toys and stuff. There's a lot of ideas for every profession, and again, most professions have toys or trinkets of some kind in this expansion, and it's really cool. So all kinds of odds and ends. Now, this is one of my favorite things they were talking about, is because the old profession recipes that have unique patterns may end up on the black market auction house because they're no longer obtainable, but people want those models, and it's possible that they can end up on the black market auction house. Which means if you buy these patterns, especially if you can get them really fairly cheap, you can make a lot of profit because people will want these models seen as they're no longer obtainable. Everybody's going to want them for their wardrobe, but nobody's going to have the patterns. So if you were able to get the patterns and spend at least, you know, I wouldn't say go overboard. If you spend like 10 million, it's going to be kind of hard to get your profit back from 10 million. But what my point is if they do really put some really nice patterns on the auction house, and I'm guessing they're talking like Zul'Garub stuff, and I suppose they'd have to make a way so you could get the items because the original Zul'Garub patterns, you can't even get the items anymore. So I don't know how they're intending to do it, because again, even if you threw the patterns from old Naxxramas, um, you're not even going to be able to collect the frozen runes or anything. So I don't know how they intend to do this, but it would be really nice to see. And maybe, though I really wouldn't like this, but maybe they would put the rhinestone sunglasses and the high society top hat on the black market auction house too. Now I wouldn't like that, but again, it's a possibility based on how they word it. And they said some less cool items that just happen to be removed are less likely to be added, especially if they don't have a unique appearance. So, imagine a weapon, as long as it doesn't have any unique appearance at all, probably not going to end up on that black market auction house. But, again, it said if there's something that was removed is very cool and it wouldn't ruin the trophy feeling that old players have from still having it, the black market auction house or Darkmoon Faire are good candidates. Based on the wording of this, those of you that are hoping for Corrupted Ashbringer, I don't think they would put Corrupted Ashbringer on the black market auction house. It would really, I suppose, infuriate a couple of old players that managed to actually do the original Nax. But again, I don't see them putting the Corrupted Ashbringer based on what they said. Profession books. Now, this is something I was asked about because only a few people actually know these, since I haven't really gone over them. But one person asked me, and they did clarify. In Legion, there are a lot of quests that reward recipes, and these quests aren't repeatable. There are books to relearn these recipes if you drop the profession and pick it up again, which these do exist, right? If you drop herbalism, let's say, and you want to relearn it, well, you can go to the vendor and there's a book that you can pay 1K for, and it will relearn everything you lost by dropping your profession. But that's only Legion content. Everything else is gone. So let's say you have tailoring and you've unlocked every single recipe and you decide, oh, I'm going to drop tailoring because this book will help me pick it back up. The books won't restore pre-Legion recipes. So if you ever decide to drop a profession, keep that in mind, because anything you lose is gone other than Legion stuff. And currently the books are bugged and they don't even restore your Legion stuff properly. But again, that's just a thing for you to clarify with yourself, is if you're going to drop your profession, realize that it means it's going to be gone, everything except Legion stuff, should you relearn it. And there's profession perks, and a lot of professions have neat little trinkets to make, and we'll go over them as I do the more professions. But again, yes, many professions do have actually kind of perks. They're not perks that are going to affect your power, I would say, but rather more fun. And you know, they were talking about how crafting an obliterum, it's going to be very good for early on characters and stuff. So it's possible to craft the stuff and make a lot of money early in the beginning because people are going to want it. And yeah, pretty much it's just saying that if you get this stuff early on, you're going to be able to craft it. And also the relics. You remember how I was talking about how those relics were junk because they were 750 item level? I was like, nobody would actually use this relic because it's so underpowered. Well, they boosted it to 805 for all the relics. So, yes, they did give them a little bit of a power increase that makes them much more viable than their 750 item level. Like, I was like, nobody would want to have these. And the catch-up mechanics, there are no plans for catch up for fishing and archaeology, which makes sense because there's really no the fishing. You need 800 for the artifact, but archaeology, I have no reason to see why you'd need max level because you don't need it. I haven't needed it for any of the quests that I've done, and yeah, there's nothing you really need for archaeology. The petals and nuggets, a few people actually asked about this, and no, there are no petals or nuggets from gathering when lower skill. They immediately start out with max level herbs, so it's just immediately you're getting the herb. You don't have to deal with those stupid petals and nuggets. I hated that. Really, I did. I mean, it was cool that you could start from a lower level, but that was just a pain in the ass because they said they took up extra bag space and aren't needed anymore. Now, does this mean they're going to remove them from the old stuff? I don't know yet. I really don't know by the way they worded it, so I don't know if they're just saying they're going to fix it so everything is immediate herbs or if they took up extra bag space. I don't know by the way they word that, but it's interesting to see. Now, they were talking about how there's built-in system that rewards you for having higher skill ranks, so you can gather more from one node or craft things with less material if you have more skill. And they're talking about the ranks on skills, not the level of your skill, but rather the ranks in your skills. And they changed it so when you craft items, you won't have a random stat increase. They can have up to maybe plus 10 in the item level. Because I did remember when I did my inscription video, I crafted a trinket, and one of them, they were all 715 item level, and one of them was 795. I later found out that that was just a random stat increase. That was an 80 item level stat increase, but they changed it so that it can be down to maybe plus 10. So I knew that was a little, I thought it was a bug, but no, it's just they could randomly increase like that, and that was insane. There is stat rerolling this time, as there are reasons to craft more items this time. So yeah, you have to make lots of items to turn into Obliterum to fully upgrade crafted gear. Doing this means you should have a stat variation that works. Enchantments, they were talking about how they're not going to remove enchantments. Rune Forging for Death Knights is a class thing, not really enchantment, so it is staying, which in a way kind of makes Death Knights, I'm not saying they have an advantage, but I mean in a way they kind of do, right? Because the Death Knight enchantments were stronger than weapon enchantments, so Death Knights had a reason to keep using them, right? But now with no weapon enchantments, Death Knights have a weapon enchantment still, kind of. And they also have the neck enchantment, which is the weapon enchantment of our Legion game, pretty much. So I don't know how, I don't know if Death Knight's going to be overpowered by having both of those, kind of. But in a way, yeah. Also, for the fishing artifact, they removed the necessity to have the wish remover thing. You remember? I spent like 10 hours catching all these coins. It's no longer required to get the fishing artifact, apparently. So, yeah, you don't have to spend all day catching those coins to get the fishing artifact. You still have to catch the rare fish, but not the coins. Archaeology is a little easier, as you saw. The rare solves aren't randomly given to you in Legion. Instead of they are a part of an ongoing story quest, and I can attest to this. It just pops up, as they say, every 2 weeks you will see a quest appear from your archaeology trainer in Dalaran, send you off into the world to complete a quest line that rewards what would have been the rare solve. So you don't have to randomly just keep doing archaeology. It'll just pop up every couple weeks, and then you do the quest. And yeah, they'll give you the rare items that you obtain through archaeology by just doing those rare quests. Gem chips. I haven't done jewel crafting yet, so I can't really see this, but gem chips are a flavor item used for one craft and otherwise something to vendor. But saving them for that because it's going to be a really powerful food. The color of the chip gives you information about the next color of gem you will prospect, so you can prospect cheap stuff until you get the color you want and then swap to more expensive ore. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that when jewel crafting, when I actually end up doing it, but I didn't know this until I read it here. Tailoring, even though there's nothing saying it, they do receive more cloth than anybody else. Humanoids drop cloth just like anything else. Other expansion, no bigger crafted bags are being added in this expansion. The team wants to see how else they can reward tailors. The Legion crafted bag isn't the biggest, but it is still pretty cheap. I have no idea what this is until I try tailoring. But yes, gathering and skinning. Um, this is really cool, by the way. You don't have to fight for your nodes, right? When you open a node, it is 18 seconds. It'll sit there for 18 seconds, and anybody else that goes and takes it doesn't have to fight for it. Skinning doesn't currently work like this. It has been a little different as you can gather your own nodes or nodes that other people create. There are ways that team can make skinning better. Maybe in the future it will have a multi-tap. So right now, let's say I take an herb node. 50 other people could come take that exact same herb, and everybody gets herbs, which means there will be a more, I don't know, supple supply of items being in the game since we don't have to fight for one node. But again, it's also nice because if you're a collector and you like to go farming, now you're not fighting all day. Profession skill level perks. There are no plans now to give power perks like a higher chance at Warforged when crafting with a higher item skill, but it is possible in the future. Higher skill level gives efficiency gains and maybe minor convenience perks. So right now, other than having higher ranks in a skill, all it's going to do is make it cost less to make, or in some way makes it easier to make. Jewel crafting. There were fewer items with gem slots, or some people didn't do jewel crafting. You can expect as many slots as we saw in Warlords, and maybe even some more. There will be sockets on some crafted items, so if you're a jewel crafter that is making armor, you can make armor with a need for a gem as well. Yes, again, we don't really have gem slots, but I can tell you from experience, it seems like I get a lot more prismatic slots than I ever saw in Warlords. So when they say, and maybe even some more, they're kind of exaggerating. I've seen so many prismatic slots on items when I was doing leveling, or not, well, not leveling, excuse me, but I was doing dungeons and heroics. So I've seen a lot of gem slots. So jewel crafters are going to have a need for making those gems. A lot more so than they did in WoD, I would say. Gathering professions. The team has considered changing gathering professions to a secondary profession several times. This does sound like a cool thing, right? That means everybody could skin, everybody could do herb, and everybody could do mining, which would increase the competition absurdly. But with the fact that we can have multiple taps on a single node, I don't know. I think it would be a cool idea if they could have them as secondary skills, because then, we wouldn't ever have to worry about if we can, like the big issue that arose because people needed Blood of Sargeras, right? It would be better if they just made it like this. I don't know. I can't really say it's better because then more people would be crafting and you'd make less money because there'd be more competition. So I don't know. It has its ups and downs, but this would be a cool update, I think, if everybody could have gathering professions. There are no plans to do so in Legion, as they made lots of changes already. Making gathering a secondary profession takes away from the fantasy of miners and herbalists, just like the Garrison made everyone somewhat self-sufficient for herbs and ore. This doesn't mean they won't do it in the future. I don't know. It's a cool idea, but I wouldn't want everybody to have professions, right? Because then, yeah, you have more competition. You're not going to make as much money as you would because if you take away the fact that people need gathering professions sometimes, that means everybody could have two crafting professions and there would be many more crafters. Future plans will add more professions content. Scribes make Vantis runes, which will have to be updated, but there will be other new content that gives the team an opportunity to add more profession content. There are no plans for new professions at this time, but maybe in the future, if there's a good opportunity to do so, they will consider it. Send your feedback and ideas. Inscriptions. Glyphs that still exist are what used to be minor glyphs. Glyphs are now consumable, applied to your spell, and required again if you remove them and want to apply it again. Scribes will make Vantis runes and respec consumables. They have lots of stuff and make a steamy romance novel kit. So yeah, all kinds of stuff. And definitely interesting for professions. I hope this helps. Yeah, people kept asking me to go over this, so we did. And again, lots of stuff to be updated. They made a lot of cool suggestions, and you know, I'm really excited for professions and Legion so far. Um, Again, you could tell from my excitement from the videos when I make them, and yeah, well, hope you enjoyed. We'll be going over tailoring in our next video, by the way, for those of you that are been waiting for a tailoring video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.